Hey guys, Stable here. Today we got a look at the new Tier 6 American Light Cruiser, the Tech Tree, Helena, Norm Scott on the screen there. By the way, Americans differ on how to say that town, so you guys know me, I don't really care. Call it however you want, tell me in the comments. But that Scott build right there, we have 4 incoming dispersion influences. Number 1, Norm Scott, perk 3. It increases the incoming dispersion. It also has the indicator, similar to Ingenious. Number 2, camo on the ship. Number 3, concealment mod on the ship. Number 4, Vian as an inspiration. Level 14 Vian, level 16 Norm Scott. So you guys can see what a pretty high level incoming dispersion build looks like for a cruiser. Judge for yourself. It's a build I'm playing around with. I won't finalize what I want to do with the build till we get the Tier 7 ship here, hopefully next week. Anyway, here we got a game, domination mode game on Crash Zone, I believe is the name of the map. We're in the center spawn, north side. These type of American light cruisers, I typically think you're in general going to be having more success on the flanks. Overall philosophy on this, we'll talk about it more as the game evolves, I'm assuming. But these are defensive ships that dare the enemy to try and push into them. Defensive does not mean sitting in the back buffing the Dewey while looking through the Hubble telescope, parked on the moon. No, defensive means holding back enemies from advancing. If you can find positions where you can continuously rain fire down on these guys and they can't shoot back, they're not going to want to push into that. They're going to turn around and go home. That's the goal here. These are not the most offensive ships in terms of being aggressive, pushing into the enemy. You can do that in certain situations if you're careful, but that's generally not the philosophy, at least that I employ with these things. So we'll see that in action here. We want to be playing close to islands. You're going to see how we do that in this game. This is kind of why I picked this game. Number 1, because it's a new-ish map that I'm still figuring out. So probably a lot of you guys are still figuring it out. I thought this position worked pretty well, but we'll see kind of how the enemy can respond to it here. One thing I should point out as this game's getting going, we have 2 of the 3 upgrades in this game. We don't have the range mod on the ship quite yet. After this game, as you'll see, we earned plenty of XP. Went ahead and got the ship fully kitted out. But looking on the map there, that's not the full range of the ship. We could have engaged that Colorado a little bit earlier had we wanted to. Probably not necessarily what we would want to do here, though. What we're going to try and do is utilize this island, remain unspotted as much as possible when we are spotted, for instance by that plane. We're going to play it safe, make sure that we're going to poke out, take a couple shots, tick those guys off. Once they start paying attention to us, we're going to pull back into cover, disengage. What you need to know when you're playing this style of play is, how do I get spotted? And the answer to that question is, it's a point in the center of your ship. I believe it's the highest point in the center of the ship. So you'll see when the center of our ship is positioned behind these rocks, if you draw a straight line between us and anyone that can spot us, and the center of the ship remains hidden, we will not be spotted when we pull that trigger. So that's very important to understand. You can see we can poke our back end out there and fire. They have a line of sight at that. They even have a line of sight to the guns, those rear turrets that are the ones that were actively firing over that gap. But we remain unspotted till we poke the middle of our ship out, as you saw in that salvo here. I do want to give a little tap to this Colorado. We are resetting this base, so we're trying to hit all these different targets. We're going to put 1 or 2 shots into him, and then we're going to pull back forward. You see, now we do have the Norm Scott perk, slot 3, that tells you when you're being targeted. That's what that number is by the spotted icon. Extremely important, extremely helpful for this type of play style, because once people start targeting us, then we know need to move forward, get back into cover, drop spot, let them go, they'll find someone else to aim at, give them 5-10 seconds to do that, then you proceed to get back up in their grill. They're going to really hate you for it, but what you can see here is we're basically covering that far cap. Now, we do have some help over there, of course. They're mainly fighting the force to the northwest of them. But we're kind of making it very difficult for them to really aggressively push forward. They're kind of forced to stay back by that island due to the fact that, if they pull out in front of that to the right of the screen, we can potentially hit them with salvo after salvo. Very high fire starting chance on this, 17% on my builds. So with the amount of fire that you're putting out here, the amount of shells, you got, what is it, 5x3. Looks like you can get all those guns on target every salvo. So that's a lot of shells going in there, potentially starting fires. That's how you're going to do the bulk of your damage. These are 152s as opposed to the 127s on the Atlanta and the Flint. So you got a little bit more punching power in terms of penetration for those HE shells, but you're still wanting to rely on the fires. That's why I've used Norm Scott on these light cruisers. Higher fire starting chance. We got 2 perks that can boost that as opposed to 1, I believe, on, well, for Einstein for sure, and I believe Kincaid, but I'd have to verify that. Anyway, I just think Norm Scott works out really well for this particular build. I'm trying to get my team moving forward here. Even though we're doing pretty well in terms of holding map control, or we're not really letting them push forward too well, they are advancing on that flank. You know, there's only so much we can do from here. But we're doing all right in terms of map control. Score, though, this can get out of control very quickly. So I would like them to get on B, and there's no pressure. I think that's B. Whatever that cap is to the southeast there, they can capture that one, or they should at least be able to pressure that, hopefully. So you can't concede cap advantage for large swatches of the game. It's just not going to work out. You can see what we've been doing, though. We're up to just shy of 50k damage. It's not even necessarily the raw damage, although the damage, if you're able to sustain and stay alive throughout a good portion of the game, which is easier said than done if you take shots like that. But, you know, if you're able to stay alive for 15 minutes of this game, you'll get pretty decent damage. It's not all about that, though. We're just kind of psychologically holding them back. You know, it's not comfortable for most players. If you go on Reddit, for instance, on any given day, there's going to be 5 battleship commanders on there who have started individual threads complaining about getting burned to death. So a lot of players just do not like HE-type spamming ships. But you can see here, we're content to just fire the back 2 guns. So we're only getting 40% of our damage off here. But every salvo that's free, i.e. that we cannot possibly take... I mean, technically they could shoot us, maybe, if they can aim over that island. They might just be able to clip the back end of our ship. It would be an expert level shot. I would be very impressed anytime I took that shot, and I would immediately respect the player for the rest of the game that fired that shot. Very rarely would you see someone who could hit you doing this if you're unspotted. So if you're trading off max firepower, and this is a core concept, it doesn't matter when it comes to angling, kiting, playing islands like this, it's always a core concept of this game. When do we trade off offensive firepower? When do we trade off those full salvos worth of potential damage outgoing, in return, we lower our percentage chance of taking damage incoming. And usually that's the correct play, is minimize the damage that you can take. So again, even though we're not putting out full salvos there, we're protected. And for sure, we're a one shot to pretty much every ship at this point in time. So we cannot be playing too aggressive. Enemy Helena's coming over here. They actually have us sonared, so that's a bit of a problem here. We do need to pull forward a little bit just to make sure we stay safe, and we almost got whacked there. You can see we moved forward just at the right time. We do have guys to the southeast that can hit this target. I'm going to keep pinging them. I need them to kill this guy. Technically, I can nose in on him, and if he shoots AP at me, maybe we can survive if we can get the angle secured by the time he decides to fire at us. If not, we're dead. And also, if he's got HE loaded, he can out DPM us. Not anymore, though. Great job for this team providing the cover. They take the shots. Here we could technically kill them. He is turning out, but before we even get the shot off, teammates come through and finish him off. So great job covering there. Great job responding to the radio. If you hear people on your team doing the radio and they're not being annoying about it, i.e. spamming, what's the latest spam? Horn. The ship's horn is the new Neptune's beard. Those of you that weren't around when the game launched, you're starting to get a feel for what, all these chuckleheads who think the radio is the funniest thing. This was every single game for the first 2 or 3 months. Neptune's beard, Neptune's beard. Now it's, and go give him hell, Tiger, or whatever the good luck one says. People are just fascinated by this radio. I think it's, all right, anyway, we'll leave it there. What was my point? Oh, yeah, if someone if your team isn't being annoying with the radio and someone says, yo, I need help, just try and take a second to look on the map, because their icon on the map will be pulsing, who's ever calling it, and if they're calling a target on the enemy team, that'll also be pulsing. It's just worth taking a second to see what it is, and if you can affect that play, go ahead and target that ship. There's usually a reason they're pinging them. Some people will ping every single target that they spot, in which case it's not relevant, but if someone's intelligently using it, usually means they're in serious danger. If you're not able to help out, they're probably going to die. So great job there anyways. But now we're kind of back to it. Now we don't have the range here, so now we're going to be moving forward. And this is going to be one of the key points of this. Earlier we were talking about, and I don't know if you noticed that splash there, but that guy did try that blind fire shot we were describing earlier. So we actually just got lucky by moving forward, but I forgot he took that shot. So anyway, getting back to my point, these are quote-unquote defensive, i.e. we're good at stopping enemies from pushing into objectives, but that doesn't mean we sit back out of range, especially with the, even though we don't have the max range on this build quite yet, we need to keep moving forward. We want to keep at least one of these ships within our range at all times. We want to be able to do the sustained fire, but then we see we're spotted by the plane, we're spotted when we're shooting, and we get people targeting us. Pull back. This is kind of what you got to do. You want to be annoying. You want to come in and out of their consciousness. For instance, I think I was in the middle of babbling on earlier when it happened once or twice, but we had instances where we pulled back into cover like we did just here, and then we waited 5-10 seconds, pulled back out, and I think it was the Colorado that we were fighting with earlier. He actually just kept his guns trained on there waiting for us, and that's the distraction factor that you want with this. You got to be careful, because those guys are going to get annoyed with you. They are going to start dedicating their attention to you until they can kill you, and you can see the incoming damage they'll take when you get those salvos. But that's the distraction factor. If you got a Colorado who's training your guns on a ship who he can't even see because the guy's hiding behind the other side of the island, that's taking that ship the ship's offensive power out of the game, effectively. So that's kind of what you're kind of going for here. We want to just disrupt the enemy team, and we're back at it. You see we got the center of the ship behind that little mound there that sticks out. Start peppering this guy, and now we just say to him, you want this? Because all we have to do is creep forward as he can gun it to the right, and we can keep him pretty effectively within our ability to shoot at him, and we can stay behind that cover. Eventually it's going to be harder and harder, and we'll have to be spotted, or we'll have to just stop shooting. But that's a choice he has to make, and you can see how painful it is. Now this Vlad here is being really aggressive. He doesn't need to be doing that, and for some reason he's flashing the broadside, so he's going to be taking a lot of damage here. But that's it. I mean, the Boise, what you have to do is make the decision, yes, I'm going to push out into the middle of this wide open water and just get rained upon with, these. I got my raincoat, I got my goggles, I got my rain hat, but golden showers are coming in hot. They're not quite as sticky as like the Atlantas, but you're going to get wet, and there's going to be puddles all over the place you're stepping in. It's not going to be pleasant for anyone. Same thing with the Leon here. Yeah, we're not doing the majority of the damage here, but we are harassing them. We're cycling his damage con. We're getting fires lit. And, if he wanted to shoot at us, that gives our teammates opportunities. So this is harassment. This is punish them for moving forward. This is, come and go, disappear, take some shots, reappear, just harass. It's a fun line to play. Certain maps is harder to do. Certain maps are going to be more open, but you still kind of have to look for these opportunities. You can get into these open water situations with these American light cruisers, and if you get lucky, you might be able to make it work for a little while. But the problem is, angling really doesn't work. The armor thresholds are such that battleships can rip you to shreds from many angles, so you can't really protect yourself like you could in, say, like a Megami, where if you angle your ship against those battleship shots, you can minimize most of the damage. Not these. You'll blow up sooner or later. It's just a little bit of a matter of luck on the battleship's part. Anyway, that's a look at the Helena for you guys. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, well, consider subscribing. More World of Warships is coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave them below. Love to hear from you guys, and we'll see you all later. All right, peace.